Today is Monday, June 2nd. We'll tell you about more targeted violence here in the U.S. against supporters of Israeli hostages. Also, President Trump's latest tariff announcement and the air quality concerns impacting millions of Americans. Plus, a high school sporting event happened under the shadow of protests and a warning from the White House. A new COVID-19 vaccine was approved, somewhat. And Taylor Swift shared some big news about our music. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The FBI is now investigating what it's calling a terrorist act in downtown Boulder, Colorado. A man with a makeshift flamethrower threw it into a group that gathered at a popular pedestrian mall yesterday. The group was marching to remind the community of Israeli hostages in Gaza. And authorities say the attacker yelled, "Free Palestine," as he threw the incendiary device. It happened barely a week after another man who yelled "Free Palestine" allegedly killed 2 Israeli embassy staffers in Washington, D.C. In the latest attack, 6 people were rushed to the hospital with burns, at least 1 in critical condition. The suspect is now in custody. But the head of the anti-Semitism task force at the Justice Department says this isn't an isolated incident, that it's, quote, part of an escalating wave of violence targeting Jews and their supporters. Future events in support of the Israeli hostages have been canceled until further notice. Hundreds of thousands more migrants are at risk of being deported because of a recent Supreme Court ruling. We're talking about the more than 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela who were brought to the U.S. legally under a sponsorship program from the Biden administration. The Trump administration revoked their status, and on Friday, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed that to happen while a wider legal battle continues. The White House celebrated this decision, saying it marks a, quote, return to America first. Officially, the DOJ argued the protections were always meant to be temporary and that the U.S. government has the power to revoke them at any time without court interference. But immigration advocates say the decision upends the lives of people who did nothing wrong and settled into American communities while their home countries were in crisis. And economists warn that removing them may hurt the economy, specifically industries from hospitality to healthcare to construction to trucking and so on. Already, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to end a separate program impacting 350,000 migrants, and the White House is still looking to roll back other protections, impacting hundreds of thousands more. To be continued. President Trump is now threatening to double the tariffs on steel and aluminum. He says the move will protect American workers and help an upcoming deal between U.S. Steel and Nippon Steel. But the European Union says the move undermines current trade negotiations and adds uncertainty to the global economy. So with that, it says it's preparing countermeasures. Other countries could follow. Now, this comes even after a trade court ruled most of President Trump's tariff plans illegal, and then an appeals court kept them temporarily in place. So there are still a lot of questions surrounding the president's overall trade agenda. On social media, though, Trump said the new metal tariff rates will go into effect on Wednesday. Ukraine carried out its biggest long-range attack of the war with Russia. It launched major strikes on dozens of Russian warplanes at several military bases deep within Russia. As BBC reports, it took a year and a half to organize these strikes, involving drones hidden in the roofs of wooden mobile cabins. Meanwhile, Ukrainian authorities reported another massive attack on their territory, too. And Russian President Putin ordered one of the largest expansions of the Russian military in recent years. All this comes as Russian and Ukrainian negotiators are headed to Turkey today for a second round of peace talks. But expectations are low, with the sides far apart on how to end this war. Well, some of the worst wildfires in memory are now burning in Canada, and tens of thousands of people have had to evacuate their homes. Unfortunately, there aren't signs of these fires letting up anytime soon, since hot, dry weather is expected to continue and resources are running thin. But the Canadian provinces of Manitoba and Saskatchewan are now asking for international help. The fires are also harming air quality here in the U.S. as far south as Florida. At this point, most air quality alerts are in effect across the Midwest and Great Plains. So people who are sensitive to poor air quality are being told to limit their time outdoors, like pregnant women, newborns, older adults, or those with respiratory or heart problems. Even people who aren't sensitive could notice health effects like itchy eyes, runny nose, or coughing. There are ways to avoid the worst of it, like wearing an N95 mask outside, running an air filter inside, and closing windows. More news still ahead, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Quince. Father's Day gifting tends to look kind of the same every year in my house, and it's kind of boring for everyone. So this year, I want to do better. I'll be ordering from Quince. Quince has all the pieces dads actually want to wear. Think organic cotton silk polos, European linen beach shorts, and comfortable pants that work for everything from weekend hangouts to nice dinners. And as you've probably heard me talk about before, Quince makes gifting affordable because everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury pieces without the crazy markups. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm eyeing a great new pair of shorts for the summer for my husband. He insists on both comfort with style, and Quince has so many great options. For the dads who deserve better than basic, Quince has you covered. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. Now, back to the news. There was a historic victory over the weekend in international soccer. Paris Saint-Germain won its first European Cup. PSG beat Inter Milan 5-0. That's the largest ever margin in a Champions League final. So with that, huge parties broke out across Europe. In Paris, tens of thousands of fans paraded down the Champs-Élysées under the Eiffel Tower and around other famous landmarks. But some of those celebrations turned violent. Flames and fireworks were set off, bus stations were smashed, and cars torched. 2 people actually died in the chaos, and hundreds were arrested. Even still, PSG's victory parade went ahead yesterday. Authorities just capped the crowd at 100,000 fans. There was also an increased police and military presence on the ground. The global body that oversees all boxing competitions is now changing eligibility rules to include mandatory genetic sex testing. Basically, it will be testing for a Y chromosome, and anyone who has it will only be eligible to compete with men. That means Olympic gold medalist Iman Khalif won't be allowed to compete, at least not until she takes another test. She's not transgender, but the last governing body said she had XY chromosomes, and many people speculate that she has a rare developmental difference. But the credibility of the last tests have also been questioned. So far, no comment from Khalif about whether she'll take the new test. Meanwhile, in California, a high school track meet drew protests over a transgender athlete competing, and President Trump threatened to remove state funding over it. Critics argued her competing kept lower-ranked competitors from advancing, but her supporters say she's worked hard and earned the right to compete. Well, the competition ended up letting more athletes in and said if a transgender competitor earned any medals, there could be other winners too. The transgender girl ended up taking first place in the high jump and the triple jump and finished second in the long jump, so she shared her accomplishments with co-winners. The FDA approved Moderna's first new low-dose COVID-19 vaccine, at least for some people. Like it did with the Novavax shot, the FDA only gave the green light for seniors and people older than 12 with at least one underlying condition. Moderna says the low-dose shot should be available in time for the respiratory virus season this fall. The FDA's approval was based on a study that compared the new low-dose vaccine with Moderna's existing one. It found the new shot was safe and at least as effective. It also has some advantages like a longer refrigeration life, and the lower doses make it easier to combine with flu shots. Though for now, it's just out there for anyone who would prefer it. The drug maker is also updating its original larger dose vaccine to target the latest variant, but is still waiting on approval for that one. All the while, there's a lot of confusion surrounding COVID-19 vaccine rules. We told you last week, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the CDC would no longer recommend the shots for healthy children and pregnant women. Well, the CDC website seems to soften that recommendation. It now suggests parents speak with a doctor about vaccinating healthy kids 6 months and older. So the shots are still an option for them. And that means it's possible insurance companies still cover them, though they haven't said for sure. Stay tuned. More than 184 million passwords may have just been exposed. A cybersecurity researcher uncovered the leak, saying it impacts everything from Apple and Google usernames and passwords to social media logins to bank accounts, health services, government portals, and so on. All the passwords were apparently in a publicly accessible database online. The researcher says whoever put it together may have done so with a type of malware that can steal data stored in web browsers, like autofill data and cookies, as well as data stored in emails and messaging apps. It's not clear who owns the database or if they made it public on purpose. Either way, cybersecurity experts are now suggesting that people change their passwords and watch for any unusual activity on their accounts. Pop star Taylor Swift now owns all of her music, ending what's been a years-long high-profile fight with music executives. Swift announced she bought the original recordings of her first 6 albums, along with all her music videos, concert films, album art, and more. And that puts them under her control for the first time since they were sold to celebrity record executive Scooter Braun back in 2019. You may remember after her masters were sold, Swift announced she would re-record the album so she would at least own the updated versions. She's released 4 of the 6 so far, along with songs from the vault she wrote at the time of each album but didn't originally make it in. And she says the last 2 will still have their moments to re-emerge if her fans want at least the vault tracks. In the announcement, Swift thanked her fans for all their support, saying them buying her re-recorded albums and going to see her record-breaking Eras tour is why she was able to buy back her music in the first place. She didn't say exactly how much it cost her, but reports say it was a deal worth 9 figures. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, the Newsworthy is brought to you by ZocDoc. Are you feeling the effects of allergies where you live? I mean, listen, I love this time of year with all the flowers and butterflies, but this time of year also tends to come with some extra sniffles for kids and adults with allergies or sensitivities. Thanks to ZocDoc, allergy relief and other care you and your family may need is a little easier to find. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. I love having this very specific search function at my fingertips so I don't waste my time calling around all the doctor's offices that don't even take my insurance. Been there, done that, no thank you. ZocDoc has more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, primary care to urgent care, and more. And you can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, and are highly rated by verified patients. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Now back to Money Monday. A lot of would-be homebuyers are finding more and more reasons to wait. For the 3rd week in a row, mortgage rates went up. The average rate on the benchmark 30-year fixed mortgage is now hovering close to 7%. Of course, rates in some parts of the country may be higher or lower than the national average, but overall, it's still impacting demand at a time when home sales are already slowing. Last month was the slowest April for existing home sales in 16 years, and since then, contract signings have gone down. So May and June home sales are expected to be even lower. Construction on new homes is also slipping, and overall home prices are up nearly 50% since before the pandemic. All that said, Redfin economists are telling homebuyers to not get scared by the asking prices, that most homes are not selling for that much. And right now, they say homebuyers have the upper hand since they're outnumbered by sellers. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back with even more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.